All right, earlier we had the NATO Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, with us on a possible deal with North Korea. But during that conversation, he said the president's quite right. If it isn't going his way or there isn't progress, walk away. NATO will understand. In fact, NATO will continue to move and be defense ready for whatever comes up. Former CIA officer Buck Sexton on all of that. First of all, his premise seems to be about, we hope this works, we hope it succeeds. We hear the saber rattling out of the North Koreans and the different posture they're taking. We don't know what's going on, but the president hopefully will meet with him. If it's not productive, he can up and leave. What did you make of that?
I think the Secretary General was being a little polite, quite honestly. It's not that North Korea in the past has failed to deliver on promises. It's that it has engaged in just outright deception and lying time and time again. In fact, there's been a bipartisan legacy of being swindled by North Korea with respect to its nuclear program. So going into this, everyone has to understand, and I think the administration clearly does, that this is not just high-stakes poker, but the odds are against us. That all said, I also think that there's some opening here, and the president is right to take it, Neil. And that's why when people start to say, oh, well, they have gone back on their initial promise, they're looking for leverage going into the negotiation. But they had to give the good faith effort up front to make it seem like they were serious. But we're going to see a lot of this circling and back and forth like two prize fighters in a ring. That's the way this negotiation is going to go. And by the way, it's not going to end with the summit. That's just really the beginning of a much longer process.
Oh, that's interesting. So let me get your read on what the president intimated might have been the reason for the sudden switch in tone and posture from the North Koreans. That Kim Jong-un met for the second time in as many months with the Chinese leader. And, you know, maybe was sort of shifted back to a different reality. What do you think of that?
Well, we're really having a three-way negotiation. I think everybody needs to keep that in mind. The Chinese are every bit as much a player as we are, quite honestly, because the Chinese are the lifeline economically of North Korea, and they're the ones who are also looking at this in a broader geostrategic sense as to what it means for the Korean Peninsula, for their client state, which is what's going on with North Korea. So I think that they might have been coaxing. Look, I wasn't privy to the discussions between Kim Jong-un and the Chinese premier, but I think she probably told Kim Jong-un, look, you know, you want to try to get the best you can, the most you can up front, just like you would in any negotiation. I do have to wonder, Neil, if the president's change in tone on ZTE has anything to do with what's going on here. It seemed to be an interesting bone to throw on this one.
Because
it seems
of the North Korean thing. And by the way, this is kind of getting a little bit of field from what you normally do, but you can answer anything I've thrown at you in the past, so I'll venture. The division within the economic team at the White House, how to handle the Chinese, that might go back to this North Korean part of the equation, where ZTE is one thing that gets Peter Navarro ballistic. Then the Steve Mnuchin route, you know, go ahead, bring that into the mix. Let's sort of get a gradual approach to concessions from the Chinese. And he thinks that what's at play here is getting a North Korean solution as well, which might water down some of the concessions that, you know, in-your-face trade hawks like Navarro and some others might advocate.
Oh, absolutely. Navarro has to be prepared for the Chinese continuously using national security, specifically trying to lessen tensions with North Korea on our behalf as a means of getting their way economically. They've been doing this for a very long time. So North Korea gives China economic depth vis-a-vis negotiations with the United States. But you can see from the perspective of the other side of this economic debate, which you outlined, you've got Mnuchin out there saying, look, we got to get this done now. We've got to try to get a positive relationship going with China, as well as pushing this summit. And so you're going to have a conflict here. But Navarro's right. China has been playing dirty for a long time, but China also realizes that right now their leverage against us going into this summit is the biggest that it's been in a long time.
Gina Haspel now is set to become the next CIA director, the first woman in that post. What do you think?
It's breaking a glass ceiling. I have to say, all of these fights we see in the Senate, Neil, over who's going to be the next Secretary of State, who's going to be the next CIA director, it's just kind of wasteful political posturing from the Democrats. They were both, Pompeo and Haspel, highly qualified, should have sailed through without any nonsense, and trying to rehash the waterboarding debate to try to get some pre-midterm donations going from Democrats, it just seemed petty.
Yeah, but it didn't work. To your point, Buck Sexton, thank you very much. The former CIA director, it was 54-45 that vote, and she is on her way to being the first woman to head the intelligence agency.